gonna tell y'all the story of how we got our baby boy early at 35 weeks. Y'all ready?
Traumatic.
Dun-dun-dun.
Alright.
Okay, so I gotta start kind of far back. I'm gonna try to talk fast so this isn't super long. So basically, I went into my 35-week checkup and I was having some weird back pain, and I just was like, I don't know what this back pain is, thought it was kind of weird. So Kirsten came with me to my appointment, and my mom, and we were there, and I told my doctor that I was having this back pain, and she said, well, you sure it's not contractions? And I said, no, I don't think so. Like, I don't know what back contractions, I don't know. I never knew anything about contractions, labor. Obviously, I'm a first-time mom. And so she's like, well, I'm just gonna check you. So she checks me, and I was 1 centimeter dilated and 70% effaced, and I was like in shock because my mom and sister both had to be induced. So I just automatically assumed like I was gonna be induced at like 40 weeks, and that was just obviously not gonna happen.
No.
Nope. So then she said, if your contractions, if this like keeps happening like every couple minutes, I need to start timing them. And I said, okay, so every 5 minutes. She said I needed to go to the emergency room. I said, okay. So I go home, we're driving home, and I look at him and he's driving. And I say, I keep screaming like I'm in pain. I'm like, ow, 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 every like 5 minutes. And then we get home and I'm trying to like relax a little bit. And then they're like everywhere between 5 and 7 minutes, and they kept going. So then my mom and dad were in town, thankfully. They were at our house. And my mom said, I think we just need to go to the emergency room. I said, okay. So we pack all my stuff, put all the baby stuff in the car, and we go to the emergency room. Me and my mom, my dad and Trevor stay home. She just went with me. And we get there, and they hook me up to the machine. They're like, yes, you're having contractions, you're in preterm labor, we need to stop it. So they give me Procardia, this medicine that stops you from going into labor. They give me a shot in the back of my arm. It's another type of medicine to stop it. I just forget the name. And then they also gave me 2 shots in my booty for his lungs, for steroids, to like help him if he did come early. So I got that all done, and they had me stay overnight to monitor me. And then Trevor and my dad came to the hospital, and then Trevor stayed with me, and my dad and mom went home.
Best sleep of my life.
My mom stayed in the hospital. She stayed in the extra bed.
Yeah, that's why I said it's the best sleep of my life.
Yeah, you slept with me in the bed. Okay.
That's why I said it's the best sleep.
Yeah. So we cuddled up on my tiny little bed, and then the next morning they said, okay, you're good to go. Just take this medicine if your contractions are constantly keep coming back. I said, okay. So we go home. I'm doing good. I'm just not really having contractions, just chilling. My parents said, okay, well, you've been doing good. My mom and dad were scared to leave me because they were like, it's just so crazy that you're only 35 weeks and you're dilated and have like you're 70% effaced. So they just were like, we're kind of on edge on driving back home because they live 6 hours from us. And then finally I told my parents, I'm just chilling, like I'm good, like y'all can go. So my parents drive home, and now it's just me and Trevor, and we're just hanging out. And then the next morning I woke up and I called my parents and I said, I think you guys need to come back. I just feel weird. And they said, okay, we'll pack our stuff and we'll start heading back your way. I said, okay. So they go to my sister's, and they're like seeing her for a second. And I am at the house, and I just haven't had any contractions all day. I've just been chilling. I think I had maybe like 1, if it was even a contraction, or 2. I had like these weird pains, but I didn't think anything of it.
You had 1 that morning.
Yeah. And I kept posting this picture of this, like, it looked like a foot coming out of my stomach, and everyone kept signing my story saying that's a contraction, but I thought that was just his head. And I'm just poking out, so I don't really know. I'll never know what it was. I think it was his head. So finally Trevor goes, I'm like, I think you can finally go to the store, because Valentine's Day was like 2 days later. And I said,
the next day.
No, was it the next day?
Yeah.
Yeah, Valentine's Day was literally going to be the next day. And so he wanted to go get me something for Valentine's Day, and I just ordered his stuff to the house. So he had left, so I was alone at this point at the house by myself. And I was just chilling, like laying on the couch. And then he gets home, and then he said he was gonna go play his video games. And I said, I want to play Fortnite to get my mind off everything. And he said, okay. So he wheels my chair into the room, into the game room, and I go in there and I sit down to play with him. And I'm like, I just felt a little weird. And so I kind of like lifted my feet up on the little mini fridge, and we were landing, we were playing Fortnite, and we just jumped off the bus. I said, oh my god, my water just broke. And I start pouring, my water broke. It was pouring out of me, like gushing.
Yeah, it was bad. It's all over the place.
Yeah, really bad. it kept coming and coming, and I was freaking out because my baby is breached, okay? And I'm also on blood thinners. I'm on Levinox injections because I have my sister and family, there's a blood clotting disorder, it runs in my family. So I was on these Levinox injections, so I would have already been like an emergency. I had just taken it that night, and you're not supposed to take it within 24 hours before like you have labor. So I had already taken it.
Eat.
Yeah, and I ate. And he was breached, so I was obviously crying, screaming because my water broke. I didn't want him to come out with his feet first, and I live 30 minutes from where I'm giving birth. That's the thing. And at this point, it was 5 o'clock traffic. So we go outside, I'm like screaming, crying. I throw the controller, I run to the car, I'm like getting in the car, Trevor's grabbing the keys. We get to go to the car, I call my mom, I tell my mom. She said, no, don't drive, you're not gonna make it in 45 minutes. She said, I need call 911. So I said, okay, so I call 911, I tell them what's happening. They get to my house in what, like
30 seconds.
Yeah, like so quick. And I'm in so much pain, it's still pouring. And then do you want to tell them what you gotta do when I called 911?
So they were talking to me, and then the lady was like, I need you to put your hand down there to make sure you don't feel anything, any human body parts. So I had to put my hand down there, and it was just water everywhere. The car was flooded.
Yeah.
So.
And then the ambulance and everybody gets here, and they put me on the stretcher and put us in the car, and they said it's gonna take us about 25 minutes to get there because it like the traffic and everything. But they ended up getting us there in like 20 minutes. But I remember laying there and I was freaking out. My blood pressure was out the roof. I kept telling them, I'm like, I can't have my baby like in this ambulance. I have to have it, like I have to have him in the hospital. I'm on blood thinners, like he's breached, like he can't, like he has to stay in there. And then my contractions just start going insane, and they're just going, they hurt so bad. When we were in the ambulance, I was really scared because they told me that, I said, what happens if he started to come out? They said, we're gonna have to pull over and deliver him on the side of the road. I said, literally, that just cannot happen. He can't, like I have to deliver him in a hospital. And they said that's what they had to do, and I was freaking out. So that already made my freaking blood pressure go through the roof. They told me I will never know what put me into labor. My water just broke. Like it could have been anything. It could have been stress. He could have kicked me. Like literally anything could have happened. So we get to the hospital. I'm like telling the people, the guy was so calm in the ambulance. He was just like, I'm like, how are you so calm? He's like, this is my job, I'm supposed to be calm. I said, well, I'm freaking out. He was like, you're gonna be okay, we're gonna get you there. I said, okay. And Trevor was in the front seat, and I didn't even know he was in the ambulance with me. I was like, where's my boyfriend? And then we get there, and I see like the people at the doors, and my contractions started getting worse and worse, and I'm like trying to tell them everything, like about like what happened. They check me, they're like, you're 4 centimeters dilated, as they're rolling me in. So they think they have time, right, to keep like talking to me and checking me in. Roll me upstairs, and they tell me that they're gonna prep me for a C-section because obviously my baby breech has to come out C-section. So they're getting us ready. My mom had called Kristen. Kristen was on the way so she could come be with me, and Trevor was with me too, but my parents couldn't make it in time. They were literally going 95 down the highway to get to me in time, but obviously they live so far away. They were still 4 hours away.
4 hours away.
So they weren't gonna make it. And then my sister was crying because she couldn't make it in time. So everybody was just on FaceTime with him the whole time, in a group FaceTime call. And I was laying on the table, and by the time they got me upstairs, my contractions were just literally coming faster and faster. And I kept telling the lady, I'm like, I'm gonna have him, like he's gonna come out of me, like literally in minutes. And she still just kept checking me and slowly telling me they're gonna get me ready for a spinal tap, and he's gonna be able to come in the room with me. And I told them I felt like I had to poop. I had dilated from 4 to 10 in 7 minutes. That never happens. They're putting that in my chart for next time. Basically, I know what it feels like to have full contractions with nothing, all the way to 10 centimeters in it. And then literally I said, I think I have to poop. And the surgeon comes in and she goes, there's body parts coming. Like, we have to go now. His little feet were coming out of me, so that's why I had to go back and get the emergency C-section.
Basically went through birth and a C-section. Yeah.
And so they start pushing, they're like, he's coming out. So they take me away from him, and they start rolling me down the hallway, and I'm like freaking out, trying to tell them everything about, like, I'd already eaten, I took my shot, so I was like freaking out. And they're like, he can't come with you now. I was like, I need him to come with me, and they're like, no. So they wouldn't let him come.
They stuck me in a back room by myself.
Yeah, so he was sitting back there alone, and I was just literally getting rolled back away from him, and I was freaking out. And then we get into the room, and the last thing I remember was being back there, and them all running around like it was insane. I just saw like doctors running, and it was literally so traumatic. I was freaking out because I was still awake, and at this point I didn't get the spinal tap, I didn't get anything. They just rolled me back there, and I see all the doctors, and they're trying to like put me to sleep at this point because they had to, because it ended up being an emergency C-section. And so I remember the guy like saying like she has to go to sleep now, and I just remember like looking up at, I literally looked up in the air at the ceiling, and I was just praying to God. Like literally I said, please let me and like my baby live, like please. And then that's the last thing I remember. And then like the mask, just like my eyes like going blank. So that's the last thing I remember.
So
he can tell you what happened while I was
in the back room, and when I was back there, it was just me by myself. They didn't have lights on, and I was on FaceTime with her mom and sister, and Kristen at this point was in the waiting room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She was on FaceTime too, and the nurse dropped me off back there. Then they went and do her surgery, but the nurse finally came back like 10 minutes later and said the baby was out, and he was good, and that Kier was still sleeping and was being sewed up, so she'd be out in a little bit, but they were bringing the baby out next. So they brought the baby out like 10 minutes after that, so I got to see him, and then Kier came out like 25 minutes after that. No one knew what was wrong with you.
Yeah.
Until you came out, and they said you were all good.
And you got to hold Muffin first.
I did get the whole Muffin first.
And he's so cute and tiny.
Mm.
Yeah. He was 4 pounds and 13 ounces and 18 inches long.
Born at 7:15.
Yep. And wait, go get him. Trevor wants to hold him. Then we got our baby Kaysen, and he has blonde hair, blue eyes. He's adorable. He got my dimples. He looks, I think, like 50-50 of both of us. A lot of people say he looks like Trevor, but now it's like kind of 50-50, I think. But yep, Kaysen Lane Whittington, he's perfect. He was so strong. He passed all of his tests. He passed everything, like his hearing test. I don't know, they said he passed all of his tests, so he didn't end up in the NICU, and we're so lucky. If I didn't go in the 2 days before and get those steroid shots in my booty, he probably would have been in the NICU. So I'm very thankful that they ended up giving me those shots, and I ended up going to the emergency room that night, or he wouldn't be at home with us right now. He's so cute.
But he's kicking it.
Yeah, he's really strong. So I remember Trevor got to hold him and everything first, and then I remember them all being on FaceTime, and he's standing like above me, and I'm in the bed, and he's on FaceTime with everybody, and they're trying to hand me my baby, and I said I was in so much pain, like I couldn't comprehend, like I literally didn't even know like my baby was in front of me. And then finally I like got like opened up like my eyes, and I said, oh my gosh, and they handed him to me, and he was the cutest thing in the world. And then
she cried.
Yeah, and he's perfect, and I gotta go upstairs with him, and they said he's good, I'm good, and they just rolled us upstairs a little bit later, and then
Kristen was already there,
so she was with me with Trevor. So that was nice having her there, because it also helped ease my nerves, because she's already been through a labor, so she knew like what was going on, at least to an extent, because I honestly was shitting myself. They started coming. My parents got there that night. My sister was crying, she couldn't make it that night, but she drove up early the next morning with my nephew, so my nephew's got to meet him already. His mom and sister drove that night,
10 hours
from Louisiana, so they got to meet him that morning. Yeah, and then I tried to breastfeed, and it ended up working out really good for me. He latched really good, especially for being 35 weeks. They said they're so proud. They said this like literally never really happens a lot. Yeah, so he was latching, and that's why I got to breastfeed. I pump. He's doing so good. He's a strong little cookie. He's a little jaundiced, so they've been monitoring him. I would go to the doctor like every 2 days for them to check, but other than that, he's kicking it. We're kicking it. He's doing so good.
He is doing very good.
So that's basically the birth story. I had to stay only 1 extra day, just because they said they don't trust 35 weekers, so I only had to stay. I stayed 3 nights in the hospital.
3?
Yeah.
3 nights?
Yeah, 3 nights in the hospital. He was born February 13th, so not Valentine's Day, the day before Valentine's Day, which is cool because we got Valentine's Day maternity pictures taken.
So it worked out perfect.
Yeah, we got our little Valentine's Day baby. That was our present. So then we spent our first Valentine's Day together with little Muffin, and then Kristen and Jacob came to the hospital. But yeah, they brought us dinner, they brought us out back, and they spent Valentine's Day with us, so that was very sweet of them. And then yeah, and then we got to go home, and it was so scary going home, like in the car. Oh my gosh, every little bump, I was freaking out.
Every time he sneezes, she thinks he's dying. We're working on that one.
I'm getting better. We got the Owlet sock. It's working good.
She watches it from...
No, I don't.
She watches it from 4 a.m. to 5 a.m.
Yeah, that's probably about it. And Trevor's been really good. I actually get to sleep. We have a little schedule. He's so good with him because you never know like how dads are going to be, you know. And he's so good with him. He stays up so late with him. He'll just stay up on his video game. He'll drink his Celsius at night. And he'll stay up really late until like 2:30 in the morning. To between 2 and like 4 he comes in the room and goes to sleep. And he has him out here with him and watches him, brings him into me, wakes me up at whenever he's ready to eat, and then I'll feed him, and then I'll pump, and then he'll go put like my pump stuff away for me, and then he'll sleep in his little bassinet next to us until about in the morning time. And then my parents have been on morning duty, and they'll come get him and feed him a bottle while I sleep a little bit, and then I'll wake up and then I'll feed him again. But yeah, so everything's been going pretty good, and yeah, we're doing great over here. I mean, I feel good. I got ready today. Trevor's a little tired.
I'm tired.
I promise you guys you'll see him one day, just not right now.
Muffin needs to eat.
Oh. I promise you guys that you'll see him one day, just not right now. Whenever we're ready, you know, the internet's just a crazy place.
Maybe tomorrow.
I know he can't wait to meet you guys. And thank you all so much for all the love and support and all the messages you guys were sending me. Like, that was so sweet of you guys. Thank you for all the prayers. They obviously worked. He's great. I'm great. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys, and thank you for following us along this journey.
Amen.
Yeah. And stay tuned for more vlogs with Little Muffin. Little Muffin. Okay, love y'all. Bye.